Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals. We end with our weekly feature, the comments of the week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 123. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we're going to have an episode out next week, and then we're going to be off on May 14th. So we have that Met Gala on Monday night, which, why do they need to have it now? But okay. I was getting real comfy with no award shows for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'm halfway looking forward to the Met Gala just because it's always a little bit fun. We don't have to watch, an award show. I enjoy that. Although we've started watching the live stream. And
that's all right.
It's all right. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but
whatever. We don't have to do everybody.
Yeah, and I think you put the theme as In America, an anthology of fashion. This is actually part 2 of that, and it's part 2, the Gilded Age. So we might see some corsets and bustles and Gilded Age fashion.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. It'll be fun. Yeah. So we were talking last week about what we were watching. I finished season 1 of Yellowstone. I really like that show. It's very epic. I was talking on the Zoom about it, and Zakiya watched the first couple seasons, and she called it Succession on a Ranch, which is kind of how it is. You don't like anybody, and you don't know who to root for.
That's funny. Well, I started watching Gaslit on Starz, which is Julia Roberts, Sean Penn in a fat suit. Ugh. Dan Stevens and that Betty Gilpin. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, from
the wrestling show.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the name of it, but yeah.
And I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be the Julia Roberts show. This is going to be all about her character. And I'm sure the show will turn into that. You can see that they're building that up. But right now, it's the Dan Stevens show, and he is amazing. He's playing John Dean. And he's just met Betty Gilpin, who will eventually become his wife, Mo. And the two of them are fantastic. They are so good together, and both of them are acting their pants off.
Nice. My aunt was texting me about that. She was watching it, and she liked it.
Yeah, and Julia's good in it so far. She's just kind of playing a version of Julia right now. Maybe there will be some acting in it at some point.
As long as she's sidelined, that sounds pretty good. I don't like watching her try to carry a movie. Although, the last movie I think I saw her in was Eat, Pray, Love. That was so long ago.
I have never been able to make it through that movie.
I went to see it at the theater with friends. I was in Berlin at the time, and I would have ditched if I wasn't with people that I couldn't ditch with,
I took my mom to see August Osage County.
Oh, I never watched that one.
That was the most maudlin bullshit ever. Oh my God.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't watch that because you watched it and you didn't have great reviews. So we both watched part of the Batman, not together. We weren't hanging out, but we watched different parts of it, I think.
Well, I watched the whole one.
I watched the whole. Okay, all right. I watched the first hour, and then I was like, "Wow, this is 2 more hours long. It's good, but I'm not that invested in it."
Well, okay, so it's not an origin story whatsoever, which I really appreciated.
I was worried it was going to be about his parents dying at the beginning.
I know. I was how many fucking times are we going to kill off Bruce Wayne's parent?
Right.
So I appreciated that. All of the backstories of the characters was a little bit much, but I'm someone who enjoys crime drama. I like a cop drama. I even like some of the propaganda stuff.
Propaganda.
And so seeing Detective Batman try to solve a crime, that was interesting, but it was also completely fucking absurd. He's just wandering around in his bat Kevlar, solving crimes and investigating.
Mascara's running his eyeshadow.
And they never explain why he and then Detective Gordon are friends, and why Gordon rides real hard for Batman. They never explain it. It's so funny though. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed emo Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson did a very good job. I even like Zoe Kravitz in it.
He did, yeah.
John Turturro stole every scene he was in.
He can act. He's fabulous in Severance. That show is insane.
Oh, I haven't started watching that. I saw that you and Hakate, you were recommending it, but I haven't started it yet.
Yeah, she likes it. It takes some investment because at first you're like, what the hell is this? I hate this. And then after like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, you're like, okay, I want to see what happens. And you start rooting for people. But yeah, I liked what I saw of the Batman. And my kid really liked it in the theater and he told me to keep watching it. I was annoyed at how dark it was. Like literally.
Yeah.
The scenes were too dark and it was kind of sepia toned. And I was like, there's no color in this movie. But yeah, I'll watch it sometime. I see what people liked it. It was way more entertaining than the Ben Affleck Batman, but that bar is really low.
I never watched those.
I saw one of them in the theater. No, I saw one of them at the drive-in, and I was like, I hate this.
Ben, I think he was wrong for Batman. Wrong for Bruce Wayne.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he hated it too. He was like saying how he didn't want to do a superhero movie, and he did a superhero movie, and then he bitched about it. I'm like, just take the money and shut up, you know?
Of course, I would have said that Robert Pattinson is totally bad for a superhero movie too, but he took it seriously. You could see that he actually cared about getting it right. There was no wink and nod to the audience. Like, he really gave a shit, and he tried to do a good job. You could tell.
He can act too. Yeah, he's been working on his craft. All right, let's talk about the royals. So the news this week has been like on steroids for the royals, but it's just the rehashing of old stories. So there are 2 new royal books, and we're getting advanced details and interviews. But the main one is the Tina Brown. She's the former Vanity Fair editor, and it's the Palace Papers Inside the House of Windsor, The Truth and the Turmoil. And that came out this week on April 26th. Now, Brown's book is almost entirely sourced from the Cambridges. Like, it's really clear that's happening.
There's a difference, though, between it being sourced between Kensington Palace and sourced with the Middletons. Those paths don't always cross. And she has clear sources in both camps, if that makes any sense. Like, she has sources within the palace, within Clarence House and Kensington Palace. And she also has, like, Middleton people in her ear, like, giving her the real dirt about, like, Kate and very Kate-specific narratives about Meghan and Harry as well.
Yeah, it's twisted, to say the least. So she takes, like, Harry and Meghan's strengths, which is their deep love for each other, their shared vision of helping people, and how great Meghan is at public speaking and actually giving a shit. And she makes them sound like they're bad and part of some nefarious plot. Like, she calls Meghan actressy and says that she's swag hungry. And she also says that they, quote, stoke each other with this illusion that they've been put on the earth to save the world. Like, they're just trying to do nice charity work. They barely ever center themselves as compared to, you know, the Cambridges.
Yeah, seriously. That's an excellent point that, you know, William and Kate, when they do charity work, it's all about how they're doing charity work and what they're learning. And
they didn't learn much. Yeah. They don't bring anything to people. They show up and breathe on them. You know, like,
like the swag stuff, that really bugged me because that was when Meghan was an actress and she had her own blog and, like, of course she accepted freebies. Literally every actor does. Of course she gets free clothes. Of course people were sending her things because they wanted to be featured on the TIG.
And her blog was so sweet and non-controversial that they can't even dig up anything on it.
Right.
And so she's been doing a lot of interviews. And Tina Brown, yeah.
So I've been actually reading the book. And I'd like to point out that I think Tina Brown within the book is actually really mean to everyone. She's pretty bitchy about Kate and her background.
Okay.
But, like, the Tina Brown in interviews, there's such a dichotomy there of, like, she completely trashes Kate and then she says, no, but Kate is perfect in interviews. Kate is perfect. She's the only one who can save the monarchy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, the talking points from them.
The talking points are wildly different than what she's actually writing.
Okay.
But yeah, her interviews have been horrible.
She's coming across like a real piece of work.
A racist.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And what she wrote, too. So she called Harry unbelievably arrogant for just saying that he met with his grandma, basically, after Harry did that interview with Hoda Kotb. And she's downplaying the racism against Meghan.
Oh, yeah, constantly. And she's comparing Kate and Meghan, saying, well, Kate experienced classism, and that's pretty much the same thing. No, it's not. Because Meghan also experienced classism and racism and anti-Americanism and, whatever, anti-Hollywood and a million other things.
And here's what she said about Meghan in an interview that Tina Brown did with Mary Claire. She said that, quote, Meghan got angry so fast, and that's what rocked the family. They're still reeling and just baffled why it seemed to go wrong so quickly. And that's the standard angry Black woman trope. It's terrible. But it's worse in the book, and you quoted some of that today.
Yeah, and like the build up to, quote unquote, Meghan got angry so fast was basically that Meghan realized what a complete fucking shit show it was within a few months, and she was like, no, we cannot keep on doing this. That's not getting angry. That's like, holy shit, we can't survive this.
And the fact that she's characterized as angry when she's already been clear that she was pregnant and suicidal because of the way she was being treated and no one would stop it is outrageous.
Exactly. And that's another problem with Brown's interviews and with the book itself, is that she doesn't take Harry and Meghan at their word about anything. They addressed several important issues in the Oprah interview, and she just completely ignores that. Like, she completely ignores Meghan talking about how she was suicidal and how hurtful it was to be attacked on a daily basis like that. She just
continues attacking her, and she's really showing the press strategy. Like, she's a distilled version of the press strategy and of the strategy of Kensington Palace and the Cambridges and the Middletons.
Right. And like, Tina is smart enough to understand that like the Middletons are full of shit about a lot of stuff. And so she's just leaving that unsaid when she's doing interviews. She's like, oh no, Kate's perfect. Just trust me.
Well, she wants to protect her sources too.
Right. Exactly. Like, that's very Camilla Tominey as well. But when it comes to Meghan, it's also a trust me issue of just, she's the worst, trust me. I don't have anything to back it up, but just trust me when I tell you that this person's awful and, she's a different breed, quote unquote.
So the quote that you gave from the book was that Harry liked Meghan because she didn't come from his narrow circle, that's in quotes, and she was, quote, of a breed he had not encountered. Mm-hmm. Harry was fired up not only by Meghan's beauty and poise, but also by the way she was in control of her own life. So that breed, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And racist.
And racist. There's another section where she uses the word ghetto when it comes to Meghan. She was talking about Meghan's acting career, and she said she was in the cable station ghetto. Like, you wouldn't say that about Kate.
No.
And Kate actually grew up in like lower middle class. She spent the first, 10, 12 years of her life in like, not poverty, but low income.
Yeah. Comparatively to the aristocrats. So we're also hearing stuff about Kate, like she's jealous of Meghan's style and she's jealous of her sister Pippa. And it does ring true. But that's from the book.
Yeah, that's from the book.
That's different than
the interviews
Brown is saying in her interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kate is a jealous person. I think she is constantly comparing herself to whatever woman is around. Of course she's jealous.
Or past. I mean,
yeah.
Her fashion is a clear example of that.
Kate doesn't have any sense of self, so she just ends up comparing and copy keening other women.
Yeah.
I think Pippa was probably the first person that she ever was like that. Jealous and then started to copy her. And then Diana, and then William's other women, like Jecca Craig, and then the Queen, and then Meghan, and on and on. There's something just not right about it. I don't want to like armchair diagnose Kate with something, but like there's some screws loose where she keeps doing that.
Yeah, she's got issues around that. But that's real typical of her whole career, where she just does what other people want her to. And her career was landing the prince, and her mom trained her for that. And that was in the book too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we knew this already, but this is detailed here as well.
Yeah, there's some big details. I've got a story coming out on Friday, which you'll have already read by the time this podcast comes out. But just some stuff about how Carol was coaching her and training her. And whenever anything was going on between Kate and William, Kate would run home to Bucklebury and like talk to her mom about it. And like they would strategize about how to handle William. And it was very much a joint effort.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, William was like cheating on Kate constantly. And Kate would just go home and she and her mom would like try to figure out what Kate should do about it. And at no point Carol was ever like, break up with him, dump him. He doesn't respect you. At no point did Carol ever do that.
I don't know about Kate, but women deserve to have a guy who's into them, you know, in general. That's a huge red flag if somebody's cheating on you and can't commit to you. Like, it's not your job to change them. They're not going to ever change. And obviously that's played out through their marriage.
But the mindset of both Carol and Kate was, we've got our hooks into him and we're never going to let him go. We're going to ride this thing until the bitter end.
It seems to have worked. I mean, we don't know if she's going to be the queen or whatever, but it's worked. She landed him. She had kids with him.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, living that fantasy dream, which is far from it. So the other book we got was... that we're getting. It's not coming out till June 21st. And that's Robert Jobson's William at 40, The Making of a Modern Monarch. And we haven't had many advanced details from that, but he seems more balanced than Tina Brown does, although, you know, anybody would.
Yeah, I think Jobson's book, which he still has me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny. But anyway, so it doesn't actually seem to be complimentary towards William whatsoever. I'm sure he'll play it like that in promotional interviews, Jobson will. I'm sure he'll say, oh no, William's going to be the perfect king. That will obviously be the promotional tool. But the book sounds really bad. It sounds like William is angry as hell, that he rages at everyone. Oh, but he apologizes afterwards, don't worry.
Yeah, that's the cycle. And it's what we've heard from the press already, so it's not a big stretch, but the fact that it's presented in a non-flattering way is... They've tried to make William's anger seem like a strength, while Harry being measured and calm and being like, yeah, I went to therapy, like that's him being weak and somehow...
Fragile.
Yeah. Fragile's the word, yes. And that's hilarious. That's their talking point, like Harry's fragile... No, Harry is the most calm, chill, happy dude. You're the one freaking out over everything. Makes zero sense.
I mean, yeah, I completely believe that Harry was a mess at some point. And, you know, in his 20s, he was a mess. But he did the fucking work. You know, he went to therapy.
Obviously, yeah.
And he grew as a man. And he made goals for himself. And he worked towards those goals. And William has just done nothing like that at all.
Yeah, no. And he still thinks it's awesome that he's mad and rules with an iron fist.
And you know what's funny? Like, we've covered other royal biographies on this podcast and obviously on the blog. Finding Freedom was a big game changer in the royal biography business. Yeah. But I don't think that we have given Robert Lacey's work enough credit, because both Tina Brown and Robert Jobson are following in Lacey's footsteps.
Okay, and he did the Brothers one.
Yeah, the Battle of Brothers.
Yes.
The first version of it came out in, I think, late 2020, early 2021.
Yeah, the first version came out October 2020.
Yeah, and then the second version, in which Lacey was co-opted by Kensington Palace, that came out in 2021. But, like, the first version of Battle of Brothers, like, Lacey ended up setting so many narratives, and I can see how Brown and Jobson are both following up on that. Like, Lacey was the one who really started talking about how angry William is and how temperamentally he is sort of like undercover, not going to be a good king. And like William actually really needs Harry to come back because William isn't capable of handling it.
Yeah. And I remember when we were covering that book, he had a lot of dirt.
Yeah. And then he got co-opted and it wasn't as fun.
It changed, yeah. So here's a segment from Zoom where we talked about the messaging about the Sussexes. And this is Karen and Zakiya.
I was reading Kaiser's coverage of everything. And I'm curious to what she thinks, what's the end game with all of this? Is to make him so toxic that nobody wants to work with him, or punish him for leaving, or they know that they can't make money off of all the other royals, but they can make money off the negativity and smearing because they don't stick to the same message. It just changes day to day.
What you said, I think you're being very generous in that there's this end game. Like there's some intelligent, force working behind with a coordinated, agenda. I think they're scrambling. They've been proven to be incompetent over and over again, just as recent as the Jamaica trip, and just not having the foresight to see how the visits would go and the pictures that were released. And I completely agree, between the different houses, there are different messages because everyone is kind of angling. But as far as to keep going on with the hate, like they kind of have to. Like you can't stop now, right? You're not going to admit that you were wrong and that we're being racist and all of this because Harry had the audacity to marry someone that he loved, admired, respected, a competent Black American actress that's a divorcee. They kind of have to keep going with the hate, because if they don't, then they have to admit that they were wrong and they're being racist and unfair. And from the looks of the British media, they're never going to do that.
So what do you think the end game is for the coverage? Like Karen asked, or do you agree with Zakiya that it's kind of chaotic and uncoordinated and they can't go back on any of it now?
I think the Invictus Games will probably be seen long-term as like kind of a turning point, because the British media tried to toxify Harry and Invictus and everything around it so hard, and it blew up in their faces.
Yeah.
And you can see them trying to like still cling to whatever negative thing they can get, but it's not really working.
Doesn't stick, especially when you see the optics around Harry and Meghan and what good people they are and what good they're doing in the world.
Right. And so I think that there is no long-term plan for the British media. Right now, they're living from like big event to big event. Right now, they're so focused on the Jubilee, the struggle jubilee.
Struggle jubilee.
They're so focused on finding some way to get Harry and Meghan to the jubilee. And then after that, it will be, not to be rude, but it will probably be, will Harry and Meghan come to the Queen's funeral?
Yeah.
That will be the next big event.
She's 96 now. That's pretty...
Yeah. And that will be the next big storyline of, will Harry come to this? Will Harry come to his father's coronation? And then you have like the minor sub-stories of, will Harry and William meet up when William comes for Earthshot, comes to Boston for Earthshot?
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of shit. And like, oh, and don't forget that Harry's got his memoir coming out this fall.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
So they're just going to like play it out event by event, major story by major story, without a long-term plan. It's just going to be moving from chaos to chaos.
Yeah. And that's their strategy. It makes them money.
Yeah.
So the Wessexes did that Caribbean tour, and they're getting like the same reception that the Cambridges did, except no one's paying attention.
Yeah. So their tour was always going to be more low-key. I think they changed up some stuff following the Cambridges tour because the Cambridges fucked it up so utterly. So Sophie and Edward were like, okay, we're going to make things really low key. We're not going to have any like big events, nothing like that. Yeah. And so the actual imagery has been a lot better, It's just that no one has been paying attention to anything other than the negative stories. And the negative stories are the same as they were for Will and Kate, which is that the Caribbean countries don't fucking want them.
So Antigua and Barbuda are calling for reparations. And when the Wessexes visited their prime minister, Gaston Brown, he told them that they intend to become a republic at some point. And he implied, like, after the queen passes, they will become a republic.
Yeah. And Edward and Sophie are just having to eat shit at whatever country they go to. They're being told, please, you have to pay reparations. Or, you know, we are absolutely going to become a republic at some point in the next few years. Like, prepare yourselves for that. And, like, Edward and Sophie can't handle it, but no one is really talking about that because, again, Sophie and Edward are so fucking boring. And
they don't even have any statements prepared about anything. Like, at least William had some statements prepared, as terrible and, well, as passive as his statements were about slavery. But they don't even have anything prepared.
Yeah. And they're just trying to avoid those meetings, and they totally skip Grenada.
And they brought the Prime Minister of St. Lucia a picture of themselves, like, signed. And his face says it all. He's like, okay.
Yeah, so basically, when the Queen dies, the Commonwealth is over. That's my conclusion. King Charles will be able to keep a few Commonwealth countries around for a year or two. That's about it.
So he's doing that tour of Canada, but it's only 3 days. It's May 17th to May 19th.
And he's supposed to, like, fly all over Canada. So most of those 3 days are just going to be spent in the air anyway.
It's wild.
Why is he going for so short a time? I guess it's because he truly does not trust his relatives around the Queen.
Mm-hmm. I liked when you wrote that. I was like, ooh, they're going to try to get in the Queen's ear.
Well, I mean, who knows? I think there's a reason why William and Kate haven't, quote unquote, found a palace in Windsor to live in. And it's because
we haven't heard about that in a while.
Right. It's because Charles is saying, no, you can't have Frogmore House. You can't have this fort or whatever. You can't have this castle.
Fort. It's true. That's what they are, but this fort.
And so, William and Kate are like, can we go see the Queen? Maybe she'll say yes to us.
No, they'll bring their kids too. Give her a puppy corgi or something.
That's what Andrew tried to do.
Yes. Didn't it die? I'm sorry. It died, right?
Yeah, it died. Poor puppy died.
Gosh. Aw.
But she got a second one. I think he gave her a second one.
Okay. So we talked about the tour on Zoom, and this is Zakiya, Karen, and Jasmine.
I saw that St. Kitts and Nevis let them know that they want to, sever ties with the Commonwealth. Like, they're done in the Caribbean. It's a wash.
Tour has been a massive success in letting the royal family know they're breaking up with them. It's hilarious how Charles just actively avoided all of those countries and said, I'm heading to Canada, where I know our ties are really strong.
It would be so great if Canada was like, actually, we want to leave too.
So, you think Canada's going to leave eventually?
Yeah, maybe Canada will be like the last one to leave. I think Australia will probably go before Canada. But all those Caribbean countries, they're going and fast.
Good for them.
Yeah. I hope they keep on fighting for reparations, too.
They should get them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, sell off the fucking ostentatious, crazy jewels. Or give them back to the countries, better yet.
Yeah.
Ugh.
India's still waiting for the Koh-i-Noor.
Yeah, there's so many stolen riches that they can return. So Kate had an outing today with Princess Anne, which we heard about ahead of time, and they visited their maternal health patronages in London. And this is very curious. So I found this picture. I didn't find it. You posted it to the story where Princess Anne and this other woman, like with a fake baby, with it's like a nurse showing something, right? They were like side-eyeing Kate, like, what the fuck is she saying while she was talking? It was really obvious. And there were a couple other pictures where Anne was looking very unflatteringly at Kate, like, what? You know? So our photo agency had those. So I asked you, can I get higher res of those? Because I wanted to like blow up the faces of the people looking at her and put it on Twitter. And you're like, that's the highest res we have. So all the pictures that are nice, we had high res, but the 3 really terrible pictures were low res. It's a conspiracy. It is. It is.
Yeah, that's been happening. Not that photo thing, but the thing about people looking at Kate like, what the fuck is she talking about?
Right.
That's been happening for so long.
Her husband does it all the time.
It's getting super common though, especially when she does events without William. Like, you feel like she's a little bit more free. She's a little bit more chatty. And people are just looking at her like, wait, what is she saying?
Like the kids. I like the ones where the kids are looking at her like, lady, no. And grown adults are doing it too. Like even her aunt-in-law. Wild.
Well, I think Anne probably looks at a lot of people that way. She just seems
She's got
skeptical.
that disapproving, resting disapproval face. But
yeah.
Yeah, Kate really earns that in most instances. But those 3 pictures, we couldn't get them higher res for some reason, huh?
I don't know why. And they looked like they were shot on a phone or something, so.
But the other ones are better.
Yeah, which is weird because all of the photos from the interior, they were all like Palace approved. The Palace just issued those photos out to photo agencies.
The ones that they gave, which were bad, were low res.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on the post where Donald Trump told Piers Morgan that Prince Harry is whipped. So
such a stupid.
Yeah, it's lame. So Not a Sugar Here commented, they put it in quotes, Harry is whipped like no person I've ever seen, end quote, said Putin's bitch. She put an exclamation point in bitch, like we wouldn't let that through or something.
I don't understand why. Well, I do understand. I mean, he was speaking to Piers Morgan. Of course, Piers was like, we have to talk about the royals.
They're so toxic.
Yeah.
And he's All
right, and my comment of the week is from the absolutely crazy story we got about Jason Sudeikis, his lawyers getting a process server to serve Olivia Wilde while she was on stage at CinemaCon. And she got served with like custody papers or something like that. They're having a beef about custody of their 2 children and where the 2 kids are going to live permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And so That's Not Okay wrote, cold blood dead. I cannot help but think it was done because she allegedly, but in reality, actually cheated on Sudeikis with Harry Styles while directing the very movie she's promoting, starring Harry Styles. The server thought of the optics and said, yes.
Or somebody else thought of it and told the server to go do it there.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe that for that kind of thing to happen, to be served in public while you're on stage, you were probably avoiding being served for a while already. I don't think that was the first time they ever tried to serve her.
That makes sense. Yeah. I have no idea. Like, knock wood, I never had that happen to me.
I've never been served either. But...
And you knock wood too, please. But yeah, one person said they got served 3 times and it was annoying, but who knows why. But it seems to make more logical sense that they would have avoided being served. Although I can see Sudeikis wanted to make a big scene of it and be like, ha, I got you.
Yeah, I just don't even think that it would be his call whatsoever. This is his lawyers hiring a process server and the process server just trying to figure out a way to get it to Olivia.
Okay, because they know where she's going to be and it's a public place. I don't know. I feel like it's orchestrated, but...
Something I still think about all the time is when Bobby Flay was divorcing What's-Her-Face, the blonde.
Yeah.
And like right after they got out of court, the plane flew overhead with the banner that Bobby Flay's a cheater or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild.
And like she claimed that she had nothing to do with it.
I don't know anything about that. The actress from Law and Order.
Yeah. SVU. Stephanie March.
Yep, Stephanie March. And we talked about that on the podcast, I think, like a couple years ago.
That was
good
a
story.
wild celebrity divorce. It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. It was a good celebrity divorce as far as they go.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.